In this lecture, we're going to learn about the auto keyword in C++. This is a keyword that is going to let the compiler deduce the type for you. And this is going to come in handy when you have longer type names that are really hard to type. We can't really give you an example of that because that requires to have a good number of concepts mastered in C++. But we are mentioning this here for completeness because we are talking about variables and data types. So let's hear how we can use this. Here we have an example where we are saying auto var1, and what we initialize this with is an integer. So the compiler is really going to try and guess the type of this thing, and that's the type it's going to assign to variable 1. This is what auto is really used for. If we pass a double inside, and it is a double because we have no suffix here, so it is going to deduce a double. If we pass a suffix of f, it is going to interpret this as a float. If we pass l, it is going to interpret this as long double. And if we pass in a character, it's going to interpret this as a character. And this is really the essence of what auto is used for. It is used when you don't really want to explicitly type the type of your variable and you want the compiler to fill in that for you or guess it for you. Down here you see that we have a few examples with integers, so we can make this unsigned long through these suffixes, and the compiler is going to deduce the type based on what we pass in our initializer here. Down here you see that we have a few examples with integers. If we pass a suffix of u, this means that we are storing in an unsigned integer, so that's what the compiler is going to deduce. If we pass ul, it is going to be unsigned long. If we pass in ll, this is going to be long, and that's what the compiler is going to deduce. Here you see that we are trying to print the sizes of these variables, and we trying to prove to ourselves that the compiler deduced the right type. And we are going to go to Visual Studio Code and actually try this out. Okay, here I am in my working folder. I am going to open my template project. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to save my files in the auto project here. So I am going to go in and put in my files. I'm going to go up again, and I am going to close whatever it is I have in Visual Studio Code because we're going to create a new project. I am going to open my new folder. We're going to close the welcome screen here, and we're going to remove whatever it is we don't need for this project. And we are going to put in the code we basically had in the slides. I am pasting this code in to save on some time because I don't want you to see me type these things. We're going to save some seconds here. So the first statement here declares a variable var1. The type we don't really know, but we're going to let the compiler deduce that for us. And we can try and actually hover over this. And we're going to see that the compiler already deduced that this is an integer. If we go to var2, this is a double. If we go to var3, you see it's a float. If you go to var4, it's long double. If you go to var5, it's a character. You can see that Visual Studio Code can even see what the compiler is going to deduce before we even compile the code. This is the beauty of Visual Studio Code. We're going to look at var6. You're going to see that it's going to be unsigned int. If we go to var7, it's going to be unsigned long. If we go to var8, it's going to be long. This is really cool, and you can see that our types are correctly deduced. Visual Studio Code was really helpful in showing us these types, but we want to be sure by running this piece of code and seeing whatever size the deduced type is. For example, for var1, we guessed that it's going to deduce an int, so it better be a 4 in size. We're going to try and run this. We're going to open our terminal here, and we're going to go to terminal and run task. We're going to build with GCC. And by the way, if you want, you can build with the compiler from Microsoft by coming to terminal here and choose it with build with MSVC. But GCC is my favorite compiler, and I am going to use it if I can. So we're going to hit enter, and there we're going to see that our rooster.exe file is in place. If we run it, we're going to see our sizes. So var1 occupies 4 bytes in memory. var2 occupies 8 bytes in memory because it is double. var3 occupies 3 bytes because it is a float. var4 occupies 16 bytes because it is a long double. And var5 better occupy 1 byte because it is a character. And we see the same data for var6, var7, and var8. And this proves that the auto keyword is really doing its job. It is deducing the types for our variables without us explicitly specifying the variable type. We didn't have to do something like AND or double or whatever. We can let the compiler do that for us. And this will come in handy many times. This is really all we set out to do in this lecture, and I hope you found it interesting. In the next one, we're going to look at how we can do assignments and assign data to our variables in a unified way. Go ahead and finish up here and meet me there.